Hey, what's up? This is a response to the Wrestling Roundtable season finale, part 1, where they talked about what should have WCW done after Starracde 1997. I watched that video today or this morning, and I was hearing what they said, and there are some things I do agree upon, but let me give you my opinions on what WCW should have done after Starracde 97. Now, as we know, in 1997, Starracde was headlined by the match that everybody had been wanting to see since almost the time Hulk Hogan got into WCW, and that's Hogan versus Sting. They've been wanting to see that matchup for quite some time, and they built it up very well. Sting, for over a year, if you will, did not really say anything. He was up in the rafters, didn't say a word. Just had the crow, when he appeared, the audience just erupted, because they've been waiting, because they knew eventually someday he was going to get the opportunity to get the match he wanted, and that was Hulk Hogan. Now, WCW did a brilliant job during that time by making it look like Hogan was going to probably align himself with Hogan. Not Hogan, but Sting was going to align himself with Hogan. I apologize for that. Sting was going to align himself with Hogan. But that wasn't the case. Basically, they did a great job of a whole year and a half of Sting not wrestling, of basically saying, okay, Sting's not wrestling, but he's intimidating. He's playing mind games. And then finally, when he did wrestle, what apparently looked like to be a clean win by Hogan over Sting, because Sting hadn't really wrestled that much, or even at all, throughout the year he was just standing there and being inactive. As we saw, that decision got turned around, and Hogan ended up losing. Now, I agree with what one of the guys on the round table said. Yeah, Hogan would not get a rematch or anything. He'd have to work for it. J.J. Dillon saying that and everything. J.J. Dillon's coming out and saying, yeah, it was a clean pinfall. It was a clean pinfall by Hogan and all that. But the thing is, WCW's been... But basically, this is what I would have done with J.J. Dillon. I would have had him come out and say, hey, look, NWO has screwed us over many times, too. He could point out the fact that at the beginning of that year, 97, that the NWO basically screwed over a lot of wrestlers. Like, let's say the Steiner brothers, for example. Everyone saw the fact that they won the WCW tag team titles at the NWO pay-per-view sold out. But yet, they had to give them back because they didn't legally win them, according to what Bischoff said. Because the referee wasn't the official referee. It shouldn't matter, right? Anyway, and then he does the same with Lex Luger. Lex Luger wins the title, but then he has to give it back. Anyway, what I would have done, though, is I would have had J.J. Dillon come out and say, yes, Bret Hart screwed Hogan because Hogan did have a clean win, but the ends justify the means, since the NWO did the same thing to us throughout the year. Throughout the year and a half that they were dominating. They had done the same thing. And what I would have done is I would have said, okay, Hogan, you want a title shot? You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to earn it. So what you're going to have to do is wrestle against these people that we choose you to wrestle against. You're going to have to fight guys like Goldberg. You're going to have to fight guys like Ric Flair, Arn Anderson. And the list goes on and on. You're going to have to wrestle these guys every night. You're going to have to wrestle these guys every week on Nitro. You're going to have to wrestle these guys every week on Thunder. You are going to have to do everything to get your rematch. Everything. That's what I would have done. Also, I would have built to Hogan versus Goldberg at Starracde. If not, I would have done this. I would have built to a Fatal 4-Way at Starracde. We were already seeing Fatal 4-Ways in ECW. WCW would have been like the second... would have been like the second organization to say, okay, let's have a Fatal 4-Way. Because I don't think WWE was doing it at the time. If I was WCW, I would have said, let's build it to maybe a huge Fatal 4-Way. Let's have Hogan, let's have Hogan versus Goldberg versus Bret Hart versus Kevin Nash. That's what I would have had happen. I wouldn't have had Goldberg versus Hogan for the title at Nitro, even though it was at the Georgia Dome, and Hogan and Goldberg finding out that it was at the last minute, and as well as everybody else did. I wouldn't have done that. I would have waited until Hogan. I would have waited until Starracde. But I can understand why WCW did what they did. I can understand it. They did what they did because Hogan was because I think around this time they started seeing that, you know, they were getting the, you know, WWE was coming up and WWE was trying to redominate, was taking back the ratings. That's why they put Hogan against Goldberg in the Georgia Dome on Nitro. That's why they did it. But again, even with that, I would have built up to something. I would have built up to like that Dreamway Fatal 4-Way between Hogan, Nash, Hart, and Goldberg. I would have done that. I would have done that. No doubt about it. I would have done that. But they didn't. What they built up to was Nash and Goldberg, which we saw was a screw job finish. But again, like I said, I would have built up to something like that in the past. And I would have built as well on Bret Hart's character. I would have built on the fact that he got screwed in Montreal and the WCW was going to make sure that didn't happen here. I would have built on that. Heck, I would have done something that DX did about a year or so later. Well, not a year or so later, but that year. DX, as we all know, showed footage of them going to WCW's event in Goldberg, right? I would have done that. Here's what I would have done. Bischoff called out Vince McMahon for Slamboree, right? Here's what I would have done if I was Bischoff. To further that challenge and that storyline, if you will, is one of the plans to really help WCW after Starracde. I would have gone to a live WWE Raw. I would have disguised myself, sat in the front row, and then when when a big match was taking place, and so Vince was out there, or Vince was coming out to do something, I would have thrown something at him, and then took off the glasses of the disguise and showed that I was Bischoff. And then right in front of the world, on Raw, I would have said, I challenge you to Slamboree. I want your answer right now on your program. What's your answer? Yes or no? Slamboree. That's what I would have done if I was Bischoff. But then again, I'm not Bischoff. But that's what I would have done. I would have challenged him right. I would have gone out into disguise like this. I would have had glasses on. And then when he would come out, I would throw something at Vince, have Vince look at me, take off the glasses, take off the disguise, and say, hey, I'm here on your show. I challenge you. I want your answer. That's what I would have done. In response to what DX was doing, I would have done the same thing. I would have done that. And nobody would have known it. But, I mean, because Bischoff said he did something similar years before, I think, the NWO, or even at the beginning of the NWO, he did something like that. But I would have done it when he was at the front row and basically wanting an answer right then and there. And letting Vince know, hey, you can ignore us all you want, but the war is still on. You can joke about us and all that, but we are here. I want an answer. That's what I would have done. I mean, there are a lot of scenarios. Excuse me. Looking at the time, I got a minute, so this might be a two-part video. But if I was Bischoff, I would have done that. And there's a lot of things I would have built on, too. Like I said, I would have built basically to a fatal four-way dream match at Starracde. Goldberg, Hart, Nash, and Hogan. That's what I would have done. And if not that, here's another scenario. I would have built to Sting Bret Hart at Starracde. I would have built to Hogan Bret Hart at Starracde. I would have built to Goldberg Bret Hart at Starracde. I would have done that. I would have done that. I wouldn't have just said, okay, Nash won the World War III Battle Royal, now he's going to get the title shot at Starracde and screw Goldberg. I wouldn't have done that. I would have built on something. I would have added Nash into it for a fatal or triple threat match. That's what I would have done. Make it more intriguing. That's what I would have done. Because you would have all these big names in the headlining this paper. That's what I would have done. But they didn't do that. But anyway, that's all I have to say in my response to the Wrestling Roundtable. And also, before I go, I would have built on the younger guys as well. I would have put maybe a tournament together to begin 1999 with one of the younger guys like a Jericho or Booker T or an Eddie Guerrero or Dean Malenko or Rey Mysterio getting a world title shot by winning a tournament throughout the year, or winning a tournament that would have culminated with finals at Starracde and the winner going on to the following month or something like that at their time in leisure getting a title shot. Or I would have had one of them winning one of those young guys winning the World War III Battle Royal. But that's all I have to say, and in my response to the Wrestling Roundtable. And I'll talk to you later. You got your comments, responses to me, let me know at the bottom, and I'll talk to you later.